Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro, friends. On today's episode, we're going to talk about taking the time to take care of yourself. And this is particularly difficult during this time because none of us have a business as usual. It feels like there's a coronavirus pandemic business as usual that we need to be getting into, but what does taking care of yourself mean during that time? And it's particularly important to understand and identify what that means for you. Of course that happened. What do you need in order to take care of yourself? And so it's important for us to start understanding as individuals what taking care of ourselves means during this time, because those rules have changed now. Those rules have changed during this new situation for you. So when we want to approach understanding taking care of ourselves, it's important to look at the three main categories that we need to take care of ourselves. We need to take care of ourselves in three main areas. Mind, so our mental health, our feelings, our emotions, that's all a part of the mind where I'm looking at that. Body, so in your physical health and in the things that affect your physical health. So having a safe place to live, having enough food to eat, having people around you that you can trust. And if you don't have people around you that you can trust, but you're still forced to be around, how can you protect your anxiety levels so that it doesn't affect your body? And the other one is your spirit. Now, spirit isn't something that is dependent on whether you are religious or not religious. Spirit is not one of those things that has a clear definition. It's like the word love. You kind of know what it means, but you couldn't really put it into concrete words. It's an abstract term. And what I mean by spirit is, what is the practice that you have that keeps your well-being beyond the mental, beyond the physical, but it goes to a much deeper level that we can't define. So for me, as a non-religious person, my spirit practice combines the idea of being deeply connected with myself and with what I consider to be everything. So the three areas we want to talk about today: our body, our mind, and our spirit. Everything that we do in our lives right now, and hopefully after this pandemic, is going to be centered at taking care of those elements of ourselves. And so this is something that I think, because particularly the construct of the coffee industry and the way that we've set up our industry, we don't as individuals have the luxury of being able to fulfill our needs in all of those things. And what do I mean by that? Well, the barrier to entry into our industry is incredibly low. So you don't have to have any kind of education. You don't have to have any kind of qualifications. You're not required to understand how to lead people or to know how to do any kind of financial statements or manage money or anything like that to be in leadership positions either. And so then what happens is we come into an industry completely unqualified and completely unprepared, and we're learning on the go. And that immediately shocks us into a stress situation. On top of that, the pay rates for a lot of the people that work in our industry are incredibly low, which adds an extra added stress to our body situation because we're not earning enough money to pay for a healthy lifestyle and to alleviate a lot of the stress that gives us the room to do things that make us feel calm. Now, if we're always stressed and we're wondering when we're going to be able to afford to eat and to do the things for ourselves that we need to do, our spirit isn't going to be in any kind of position to thrive. And so, as you can see, the setup that we have for our industry really conspires against us. And that 2 years ago was the main driver for what Map It Forward was started for. Because I felt that our industry was in a unhealthy situation and we weren't paying attention to how unhealthy a state we were all in. And I don't want to see us continue to perpetuate that. So I hope, as we've spoken about in previous episodes of the podcast, I hope that we take this moment to really assess what we want for ourselves and what we want for each other as an industry. And when I say each other, I don't just mean the people that we work with and our colleagues in our local areas, but what do we want for the whole value chain? And so in moving forward and taking this time that we're in isolation to start considering, well, what haven't I been doing to take care of myself? Have I just been eating really poorly because that's all I could afford, or that's all the time I had when I was running my business or when I was an employee? Am I taking the time to think about what happiness looks like for me? Am I taking the time to consider what are the things that are causing my mind stress? Am I taking the time to consider, are the people that I live with, are they good for me or are they toxic for me? And what measures can I take to improve that situation or change that moving forward? And this is a time to start thinking about how you can evolve from that after quarantine. Also, if you're someone who is incredibly introverted and cut away from a community or society, has this shown you that this is something that you'd like to change after this so that you can be more connected and your spirit can be more invigorated from the connection that you could get from people? This is definitely something that I particularly am working on throughout this pandemic. I've definitely had some of my faith in humanity restored. I'm not someone who typically trusts people. I used to trust people far too easily, and my journey led me to be betrayed by too many people, and I absolutely own my role in that. You can't be too trusting, but you can't not be trusting at all. So my journey moving forward is all about, how do I find a middle ground with that? How do I find a way to be boundaried and to be welcoming at the same time to the right people? And so that, having taken this time to reflect on that, will really rejuvenate my spirit, staying connected to myself. You know, this weekend is Easter, and as someone who used to be a Catholic, Easter was always a time of great celebration in our family. Just because I'm no longer a Catholic, it doesn't mean that I'm not going to think about some of the ideology behind Easter. Easter is a time of rebirth. Easter is a time of allowing the parts of you that no longer serve you to die, so that you can be born from the beauty of that death. That's the best way that I can put that. And so you kill the toxicness of what no longer serves you, and you bring rebirth to the ideas that you now want to explore. So for me, as someone who's not religious, Easter is still a time that I mark in the year where I want to celebrate the things that I have done over the last year that have caused great rebirth in me, and start to set some intentions moving forward. Or what are the new things that I would like to work on so that I can move beyond them, so that I can come to a time next year whereby I can let go of those things. And for me, I track that through moon cycles, just because that's an ancient kind of method for tracking the way that our lives move. You know, I use the full moon as an opportunity to let go of things, and I use the new moon to mark a time of setting intentions for creativity. Now, I'm not saying that the moon does or does not have specific energies for that, but what I am saying is it allows me to have a ritualistic practice. And so at the time of the full moon, I take time to sit and consider. At the time of the full moon, I take time to sit and consider. Having these kinds of things in your life and establishing these kinds of rituals are a part of what is important in taking the time to take care of yourself. I suspect that when we get back to business as usual, we may not, after some time, we may forget what it felt like to be in this moment. So please use this time as well as you can to start establishing these kinds of intentions. At the very least, to consider, how could I take better care of my body, my mind, and my spirit? And consider your career and your business and your professional life, the one that you want to return to after this, in relation to the way that you want to take care of your body, your mind, and your spirit when you plug back into all of that. I hope that that's been helpful. Whether you celebrate Easter or not, I wish you the time and space to ponder on the things that this moment is worth celebrating for you. Peace, love, and peanut butter, friends. Have an amazing rest of your day. Stay safe and stay healthy.